You're listening to the Back Porch Talk podcast. Danny and Jason had many discussions and debates on the back porch while making pivotal investment moves with assets. That's right, with trading cards. They welcome you to the back porch and right into those discussions about current sports news with a fresh and unique twist. So come on and join us. Welcome to the Back Porch Talk podcast. I'm your co-host, Jason.
This is your co-host, Danny.
Fans, we got a fire show for you today. A little bit about the NFL, preview of our teams, and then ultimately we have some breaking news from the NBA, a little HBCU talk, and we'll go into tennis. But first, Danny, right into the NFL, and where the season is right around the corner. It's right around the corner, and oh boy, the Green Bay Packers and the Atlanta Falcons has very interesting schedules. And so we wanted to kind of preview what we think our teams are going to do here, provide you our records of this 17-game season. Packers against the Vikings opening day on Sunday, September the 11th, and they're playing at the Vikings. The Packers are going to split this season series, and I think they're going to start off with an L here. I think the Vikings are going to win in Minnesota. The Bears, I'm not worried about. The Packers will win that. Packers against the Buccaneers. By this time, the receiving core would be used to Aaron Rodgers and vice versa. I'm going to pick the Packers to win against the Buccaneers, man. 2-1 so far for the Packers. Patriots at the Packers, I'm going Packers. Giants at the Packers, I'm going Packers. That puts them at right now about 4-1. Jets at the Packers, going Packers, 5-1. Packers at the Commanders, I'm going Washington Commanders here, man. I think there's going to be a slippage here. So that's 2 losses. Packers against the Bills, October 30th. I'm going Bills. Going Bills here, so that's 3 losses. Packers against the Lions, I too think that they're going to split against the Lions here as well. This one, I'm just going to say that the Packers are going to lose. 4 losses. Cowboys at the Packers, I'm going Packers. Titans against the Packers, I'm going Packers. Packers against the Eagles, Packers against the Bears, that's another win. Rams at the Packers, Rams is going to win. The Packers are going to take the L on that one. High on the Rams, man. Not because they're defending champs, but that defense is wicked. So that's 5 losses right now for the Packers. Packers against Dolphins, that's on Christmas night. Or excuse me, Christmas afternoon. 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, start time. Man, I think the Packers are going to lose, man. Listen, man, you down in Miami. It's the holidays. These guys going to be on the beach. The drinks going to be flowing. Come on, man. Y'all know what time it is, man. Vikings at the Packers, New Year's Day. I'm going Packers because, again, I said it's split. And Lions at the Packers. Again, I said a split. So I see the Packers possibly losing 5 games here, 5-6 games. I'm going with a 12-5 record here for the Packers, maybe 11-6. What say you, Danny, about your Falcons?
So, Jason, we open up against the Aints on September 11th, and it's going to be it's hard, man, with the Falcons because they showed a couple signs in preseason, but it's just hard until you see them play and when they actually install the game plan and how they if they're going to use Ritter at all, or is this going to be Mariota? So starting with the Saints, I'm going to pick an upset here. I'm going with my boys. I think they can beat New Orleans. Landry just went down with an injury yesterday. Michael Thomas is banged up. So if they're going to beat New Orleans, this is the game to get them right here, right off the top. Then we go to Los Angeles. We're going to take that L, 1-1. We go to Seattle. This is an interesting matchup. This is where this schedule, where they can do really well against some of these subpar teams with these subpar quarterbacks and actually surprise some people or just play like they're going to play. So I think they can steal one in Seattle. So 2-1. versus Cleveland at home. This is a tricky one. Jacoby Brissett is the quarterback, but Cleveland can run the ball really well. I think it's 2-2. At Tampa, 2-3. I won't even dwell on that one. Home against San Francisco. Another interesting matchup where Trey Lance looks to be the guy. Man, I want to pick Atlanta. I'm going to go 2-4. I think they might lose that one. At Cincinnati, 2-5. Home against Carolina. We always tight games against Carolina. I'm going to go 3-5 here. I think we beat Carolina. And then we have the Chargers, 3-6. At Carolina, 3-7. Home against Chicago, 4-7. I think we can get the Bears. At Washington, 4-8. Home against Pittsburgh, 5-8. You have New Orleans at New Orleans, 5-9, being on the road. At Baltimore, 5-10. Home against Arizona. So this is a tricky game too, because this is towards the end of the season. Arizona might be wrapped up. So if they're benching people, we might steal this one. So I'm gonna go. That's our 6th win, and then the end with Tampa Bay. So I say we get 7 wins this season. I think we go 7-10. But there's some games in here where I think we could possibly steal and end up like 9-8 because of the quarterbacks. So it's going to be. We'll have to see what the defense looks like. If the defense shows up, I think we can get to 9-8. If they don't, I think we'll be 7-10.
And now, Danny, on to the breaking news here in the NBA, and where Donovan Mitchell has been traded to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Man, what an interesting trade. So the Jazz are actually receiving Larry Markkinen, Okai Achabaji, and Colin Sexton. And Cleveland's unprotected first-round picks in 2025, 27, and 29, as well as pick swaps in 26 and 28. It says here that Sexton will also sign a 4-year, $72 million fully guaranteed deal as part of the sign and trade agreement. Recently did a show here on our thoughts about the Eastern Conference and where teams are going to stand. This changes some things, in my opinion, because the Cleveland Cavaliers now has a interesting core that would include the likes of Darius Garland. I mean, you got somebody at the point, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen. You add in Donovan Mitchell. You still have K Love there. It looks good on paper. I just want to see if they can gel and mold here. But man, this is a game changer in the Eastern Conference, in my opinion. In my opinion, I think with the way that Cleveland plays defense, especially with Jared Allen, I think this is going to put Cleveland possibly in the top 3.
Whoa.
That's how big of a difference I think this is, man. I think this is going to put Cleveland in the top 3. So you're going to have the Bucks. In my opinion, you're going to have Boston in there. And Boston's going to be interesting because, again, with the injury history of the president as his nickname, I just think that Cleveland, the way they play defense, I think they're going to pop in the top 3. Maybe Philly in the top 3, but Cleveland definitely in the top 4. What say you?
Jason, Utah has turned into Oklahoma City the way they're amassing all these first-round picks. Because Oklahoma City, I think, has just as many as they do, or close. They have the rebuild going. They got rid of Gobert. They got rid of Mitchell. Great trade for Cleveland. I think Sexton and Garland, with Garland, emerging last season, they're a small backcourt. And they kind of played the same position in a way. So now this puts Garland strictly at the point, puts Mitchell at the 2, and it gives them some offensive punch. Sexton can score now. Don't get me wrong. I think the part Markkinen, he had a good season last year. So I think that's part of the trade. I wish Cleveland could have kept him to support your number 3 seed in the East. with him gone, I still think they're going to be strong. I just don't see them. I see them around the 5-ish, 5, 6
I don't know that.
still,
I don't
because
know.
I think Brooklyn has something to prove unless they just implode. Philly's going to be tough. Miami's right there. So it's going to be a battle, and it's a great. It's going to be great, man. Those Eastern Conference games, I mean, no joke.
Danny,
With Mitchell coming over.
I honestly believe with this move, this puts Cleveland ahead of Miami. I really do. I think this puts Cleveland ahead of Miami.
Okay.
With the Brooklyn Nets, these guys don't play defense like that, man.
They don't, but they're bigger, so they'll give them problems. Put it like that, and they don't really have anybody that can stop KD.
Yeah, I put it like this: at full strength, I would love to see Cleveland against Brooklyn, even in a playoff series. At full strength, I would love to see that.
They gave us a preview last year, right? We got to see that in that playing game. So to see them go a full 7 or a best of 7, it'd be intriguing for sure.
This is going to be very, very interesting. And now, Danny, on to some college football, where my beloved Florida A&M Rattlers faced the University of North Carolina Tar Heels this past Saturday evening. And oh boy, and I'll just say this just to start off here. There are some things that I can and cannot comment on. As an alum, I will strictly comment on the actual game itself. And so I want to say that, first of all, kudos to the Rattler football team for one playing. There were 20 plus ineligible players right before the team leaving from Tallahassee for the game. And it honestly caused a lot of shuffling around of players. But again, kudos to the student athletes for not only playing in the game, but also acknowledging some of the issues that they have experienced. So I am proud of these student athletes. But on to the game, Danny, and I'll just say this, man. You know, I was just really wanting to ensure that when we scored, I have to a game at the Ohio State University several years ago where we did not score. I just did not want to have that memory of not scoring come back. I have to say, man, this game was very, very close, in my opinion, until the end of the third quarter. I was thoroughly impressed with Jeremy Musa, who was the starting quarterback of my beloved university. And he went 28 for 38 for 279 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. And that 1 interception came right before halftime. And I think that was something that could have had probably maybe a different play call there to avoid that. But nonetheless, Danny, what an impressive showing, and where 10 plus receivers caught the ball, and spread the football around. And I really love his poise in the pocket. Now, what's going to happen moving forward now that there's some film on him? We'll see. But I think that's where the offensive mind of Coach Willie Simmons is going to really play a huge role in how they make these adjustments as they either get blitzed or rushed or whatever the case may be. So I'm really, really impressed with the play, the fact that they showed up, scored 24 points against a Power 5 team. We were moving the ball on these cats, man. We were moving the ball on these cats, Danny. And listen, I was going all over the place Saturday night, man. I was like, man, we are in this game. We can run with these cats. And so the more and more I got into the game, the more and more I felt that we were going to win.
Mm-hmm.
I called it upset, but I believe what ended up happening was with the number of ineligible players that we had, our student athletes, they just ran out of gas.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't have the reserves, if you will,
Yep.
to shuffle in and out to kind of help sustain us, if you will, for a full 4 quarters. But nonetheless, Danny, I'm happy with the way that we showed up. We scored 24 on them, man. I
Mm-hmm.
am very, very interested in knowing how we're going to do in this Orange Blossom Classic that's coming up that we'll get into a little bit more later here. But what say you, Danny?
Jay, this one, if anyone watched the game, it was pouring rain there. The
Mm-hmm.
weather conditions were horrid.
Mm-hmm.
Watching from the comforts of my couch. But I thought there was a key play in that game that got North Carolina's quarterback Drake May going, and it was a scramble in the first quarter, which ended up resulting in North Carolina scoring their first touchdown. And that kind of got him going where Florida A&M was going back and forth with him. But I thought if they would have, it was a third down play too, where they could have stopped, if they would have stopped him, he wasn't really doing much. And then after that, that's where he went off and he ended up throwing 5 touchdowns. So he ended up having the game of his life, for that opening game. But I thought that scramble really got him going. And it's, yeah, it's tough because it's one of those things where you wish you would have saw the full complement of players and you'd have got the actual game you wanted to see. But they did hang in there. They're around, and it was 35-24 at one point, and until North Carolina went off a little bit at the end to score those last few touchdowns. So very interested to see what happens this weekend as well, but we'll talk about that shortly.
So let's talk about Orange Blossom Classic. What's going to happen this Labor Day weekend on a Sunday, and oh boy, a whole lot happening not only in Tallahassee but also in Jackson, Mississippi. Obviously, the news is that there's a water crisis in Jackson, Mississippi. So we do send our best to the people of Jackson, Mississippi. Know that the reserves are there to help with the water crisis. So we're hoping for clean water here in the very, very near future. But Jackson State University is traveling down to Miami for this Orange Blossom Classic against my Florida AM Rattlers. This is going to be very interesting because last year I went to the game, Danny. 7-6, Jackson State wins, and I believe this game is going to be a little bit different. I believe we're going to see more than 7 points on both sides of the football here. I believe that Florida A&M is going to win this game. I have a feeling though that the offensive line is going to be key for both teams.
Yep.
Quite frankly, we did have an injury, a couple of injuries on the line here in the first game. I believe that there's going to be more eligible players than what we had last week. So I think that I'm hoping that's going to help out for our offensive line. Having said that, I believe that my Florida A&M Rattlers are going to win. I think it's still going to be a close game, but I think it's going to be in the high 20s. What say you, Danny?
Yeah, this one's tough to call, Jay. You just don't know how players are going to respond from the Jackson State side, just due to all what's going on in their environment, right? They're trying to find somewhere to practice, trying to get somewhere where they have running water, clean water, and it's a shame because you don't want something like this being, air quotes, an excuse, so to speak, if they fall flat, right? But it could be one of those things too, where they come out guns blazing, they're hyped, first game of the season for them. And then you have on the FAMU side, after what just happened, what we just talked about, you're curious on how they're going to respond. Because these are all college kids that have a lot going from an adversity standpoint. And you're just curious how they respond. I believe the game's on ESPN too, if I'm not mistaken. So I'll definitely be tuning in and looking forward to this game. it's hard to call, man. The way Jackson State ended last year, they got a bad taste in their mouth. So I think, and they have some new players here. It just depends on who's playing from FAMU. So I'm gonna go Jackson State, not necessarily understanding if Land's gonna play. I haven't seen the official word yet from his side. So if he's not there, I think Jackson State can get him. But if he plays, then I'm gonna go FAMU.
And speaking of Land, right now he has a 4-game suspension, but they're still working on eligibility for him. So we'll see from that standpoint. Just as we're talking about classic, one classic near and dear to the heart is the Circle City Classic in Indianapolis, which for the first time in 37 years, they will not have a football game, Danny. They will have a battle of the bands and basically a Greek step show or a Greek competition. I'll just say this, Danny, this is a travesty. For someone who attended the Circle City Classic in the early 90s and where the RCA Dome was the sellout for this game. And for it to be the premier classic in the Midwest, to go from that to go to absolutely nothing from a game perspective is, in my opinion, this poor management. But it's a sign of the times, though, too, Danny. It's a sign of the times in where I'm proud to say that the football teams are wanting more when it comes to funding and more money for these classics. In particular, for the classics, historically, they have been shortchanged in football programs and really the athletic departments. They've been shortchanged. And now they're speaking up. They're owning their own classics. The pot is a little bit bigger than what it has been historically. And I think that has put the Circle City Classic in a bad position to even offer up any additional money for two premier teams in schools to actually come in and showcase themselves on the Circle City Classic platform. There are different platforms now, and heck, they're even hosting the games at their respective universities, pulling in more revenue from their own alumni base, from their own fans. And I have to say, it's a business decision. Until the Black Expo, until the Circle City Classic realizes that and makes some significant changes to how they deal with the Circle City Classic moving forward, it would always be from here on out, the Classic being for the bands. If it's band competition, you're always going to have the likes of Miles College, Kentucky State University, and Talladega. Not necessarily, and this is nothing against those schools, but the bigger schools, like a Florida A&M University or Jackson State or Howard or some of the bigger schools that has a world-renowned band. You're not going to have them to actually come to the Circle City Classic any longer. So Circle City Classic, Indiana Black Expo, what you going to do? Are you still going to are you going to continue to have these bands, these schools, along with a Greek step show or a Greek competition? Or are you going to eventually get back to what Circle City Classic used to be? That's a question for the leadership. I hope they hear it. And I'm pretty certain that the fans and the residents of Indianapolis who actually attended HBCUs, I'm hoping that they start making a bigger ruckus than what they are doing right now to possibly bring back this tradition. But at the same token, they're going to have more funds and money to really be pulled in, more sponsorships to be pulled into the Black Expo, to the Circle City Classic, to ultimately have the tradition come back. What say you, Danny?
Yeah, Jay, this one being down there as well. Tough to see this happen. Attendance has been dwindling the last couple of years. You had COVID, obviously, but just the ambiance, the atmosphere was always hype back in the day. And like you said, things have changed and people have to change with the times and understand and pivot to understand what's going to keep that draw. So I think they just have to make some changes, and maybe it's a change in leadership or whatever the case may be, but change has to be made in order to bring it back to the way it was back when we were growing up and being in that atmosphere. We'll see what they do, but it is a shame not to have a game this year.
And now on to the U.S. Open, Danny, where Serena has actually gone past the second round after her second round victory over Annette Kontaveit, in where it went 3 sets, 7-6, 2-6, 6-2 over the number 2 seeded Annette Kontaveit. So, Danny, this is her last hurrah in the U.S. Open, and before she transitions or evolves from tennis. And man, she is holding the world in the palm of her hands right now, man. And where everybody who loves tennis, who loves the Williams sisters, are actually watching day in and day out, night in and night out. Tonight is a double team here, and where her and Venus are actually going to be playing again at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, man, just a great victory for Serena. What say you, Danny?
Yeah, Jay, man, it's exciting knowing this is it for her, getting to see her one last time and actually putting a run together here. The match yesterday was tough, man. And they deuced a lot of times, but for her to win that match and then get to see her with Venus tonight in their doubles match, it'll be exciting to see. And it's been one of those things where I can't miss it, because this is the last time. It's like watching Jordan, watching LeBron, Tom Brady, and all these other greats. At least this is it for her. And she's coming out playing strong, man, and she has a good shot. It's just a matter of how much gas does she have in the tank to last, playing doubles and singles. So if she was just playing singles, I'm like, all right, she's good. But she has the doubles thing going on, so it's just a matter of her endurance and if she can last in these matches. So and her odds, man, those odds are getting better in her favor. So Vegas is watching. So I'm hoping she does well.
Thank you for joining us at Back Porch Talk Podcast. You can also join us on Twitter by tweeting us at @back_podcast. For more information, you can go to our website, which is backporchtalkpodcast.com. You can also email us at backporchtalkpodcast@gmail.com. Again, thank you for joining us, and remember that there's enough hate in the world, so go ahead and spread a little love.